Total Screen proudly presents their official podcast, On Screen, with your hosts, Tyson Gifford and William Rohrig. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the On-Screen podcast, the official podcast of thetotalscreen.com. My name is Tyson.
My name is Will.
And today we are going to be talking about episode 5 of Hawkeye, titled Ronin. We're also going to be talking a little bit about the Game Awards and the Nintendo Indie World event that just happened.
Yeah.
And a few things coming up on the horizon as well, but not too many. Let's kick things off with the Game Awards. So, sorry, just saying the title of it made me start yawning.
The Yawn Awards. Yeah, it wasn't great. At least for like somebody of my gaming tastes.
Yeah.
It wasn't great. I'm sure like there's stuff here like maybe other people would absolutely love.
It's funny because some of the titles that looked more interesting were all like pre-show stuff. So like we got together with a bunch of people and everyone's like, yeah, I'm just gonna wait for the show to start. And I tuned in and I'm like, they're showing shit right now.
I think a huge problem is like everything was cinematic. There was like very little in the way of showing actual gameplay for anything.
I don't understand
even if
why
something
they call
is
it a
like
pre-show
noteworthy.
when they're giving away awards and showing announcements.
I don't know.
Like, isn't that just the show?
you would think.
And then they gave away awards in the pre-show for like genre categories and shit.
They do that like every year though.
But they did that and then they held off the awards for like the streamers for like the big show.
Yeah. I don't know why the hell the streamer award is like exists, and why like they like treat it like such a huge award. Like the person who won that category was a Minecraft streamer named Dream. I don't watch his content. I don't know anything about him, but I do know like on Twitter, like after he won, I saw people like reposting like tweets he made. And apparently he was just very obnoxious and just like going off on people in a very douchebaggy and egotistical way. So that was just a platform to give some random douchebag a fucking award and pump their ego. Like, can we just remove that category?
Yeah.
Like, Jesus Christ. And obviously, like, I'm too old for that shit anyway. These are people like only Zoomers have heard of. So me complaining about the streamer, that's probably just old man yelling at cloud. I'm at that stage of my life,
I just think it's funny because it's like, we watched the thing kind of together. We're on a group voice chat with some people from Game Witness Discord channel. And we're sitting there kind of chatting and stuff. And I tuned in early and I'm like, holy shit, they're showing all this stuff. And like when I look back at what I saw from the event, because I had to log off early because I had some stuff to do. And it ran an hour longer than I thought it was going to run.
It's a 3-hour show. It's not a short show.
3 hours of
and
garbage.
I gotta be honest, like a lot of that to me is like padding.
Yeah.
Like, we don't need full performances from Sting or like, we're good. We're good.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on.
But like in the pregame show, like they showed the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game. That was one of the more interesting game announcements, I thought, But that was like pregame show. They also, in the pregame show, they showed the Telltale Expanse game.
Yeah.
That was like, well, there's a game company that was kind of beloved and went away, and now this is their return with a beloved franchise that they're doing this thing for, and that was on the pregame. And then they saved the main show stuff was like, oh, here's like a tech demo of The Matrix.
Yeah, which I downloaded and I played, and it looked cool.
And here's a trailer for the new Sonic movie.
It looked cool, but you mess around with it for like 5 minutes and you're done with it. Like, to have that like, oh, this is one last thing. This demo you're going to get bored of after 5 minutes, but it sure does look pretty. I thought trailer for Sonic looked really cool. I really love what they're doing with the Sonic movie, actually. Bringing Tails and Knuckles into it.
For the Game Awards, even though it's based on a game or something, like, for that to be one of your main trailers is like...
Well, they did have, to be fair, they did have a trailer for the next Sonic game as well.
Yeah.
Sonic Frontiers.
Breath of Sonic. Breath of the Hedgehog.
Which Sega is calling an open zone game. Whatever that means.
Well, it's because they always call it zones and instead of like
I know Sonic levels are named zones. Yeah. Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah.
But how are you going to play like fast, speedy platforming in an open world like this? To me, it's like the open world stuff, like the art style for the open world stuff. Seeing all the open world stuff looks like really attractive in the trailer. But then when you think about playing it as a Sonic game, like it starts to go like, okay, well, what is this going to be? And the only thing I can think of is remember that Sonic game? I think it was called Unleashed, the one where he turns into the werehog or whatever.
Yeah.
And the problem with that game is that basically, and they even said it in interviews, like, if we're going to do like a big 3D Sonic game, it's really hard to build levels because you move through them so quickly that we have to build these really big levels just so that you can play them for a very small time. And so their answer to that was like, well, what we'll do is we'll have you do like the speed stuff in little bursts, and then we'll like create this other segment of the game where you move slowly.
Yeah.
And it's like, instead of making a huge big world, why don't you just make a more sparse but really fast and detailed platforming area instead? It's like their priorities are all out of whack, and that's what this is making me think of. So basically, like, this is going to be a game where there's going to be like little speed challenges probably, and then the rest is going to be like slowly wandering in the world environment, you know?
Yeah, I don't know how it's going to end up. I mean, it's not like they showed anything in the way of gameplay or anything.
They're going to rip off Breath of the Wild more, so they're probably going to be like something like shrines. They're going to be like little speed levels.
This is the Game Awards, not the Gameplay Awards. They showed a trailer for Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League. Looked neat, but again, it was like all cinematic. The funniest thing was Jeff Keighley getting up there and giving like that big speech on harassment in the gaming industry.
When before the show, they were like, well, we're not going to mention.
Well, we're not going to.
And then they got all this backlash.
Well, yeah. He gave this big speech on harassment in the gaming industry and said, here's the new game by Quantic Dream. if you look up, like, Quantic Dream is embroiled in sexual harassment scandals as well.
Yeah.
They're the Detroit Become Human developers. Apparently, they're making Star Wars Eclipse.
David Cage, right? That guy.
Yeah, David Cage. I'm not a fan.
Had allegations against him, I believe.
I think the worst part of the Game Awards was just seeing, oh, here's this cool looking Star Wars game. David Cage is making it. And I was like, oh, okay, interest immediately gone.
So the whole game's just a bunch of QTEs. Got it.
Yeah, pretty much, with like a very bad story. They confirmed that developer Monolith, not Monolith Soft, it's Monolith Productions. They made Miller's Shadow of War. They're developing a Wonder Woman video game. Cool, but they only showed like a CGI render of Wonder Woman. Like, literally nothing else.
I did hear it confirmed that they are using an updated version of their Nemesis system, which is what they're extremely popular for from the Shadows of Mordor game.
Oh, okay.
All right. So that's the system. Do you know anything about that, or?
Yeah, I know a little bit about that.
That's the whole system where it's like
system where like enemies like remember you.
Yeah. And so like you'll build like a rivalry, I guess. So, yeah, kind of like a rivalry with like an NPC, and it'll like automatically generate like a little story based on that throughout the game. So like they'll just kind of pop up and show up throughout your adventure and stuff. And they're doing something akin to that with Wonder Woman as well, but like a new version of it. So
yeah, so that's cool. That has potential to be very cool. Definitely keep an eye on it. But again, they didn't show much. Alan Wake 2, they confirmed that that's coming. It's being published by Epic Games, coming to all major platforms except for Switch. That's cool. Forspoken looks good. I have nothing new to say about that game.
There's some people have been talking about Thirsty Suitors, which is, it kind of looks like a gender flipped Scott Pilgrim type story.
Yeah, it does.
It's Annapurna, which has been doing really well.
Right. I'm really into like visual novels.
Mm-hmm.
So not really my thing, but probably cool for people that are into visual novel type stuff. Let's see. You mentioned Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I don't care because it looks like it's just like another one of those asymmetrical multiplayer horror games.
Yeah, they kind of found the right format for that type of franchise game, being like the asymmetrical style.
Right.
But yeah, like there's been a number of them now, so.
Yeah, there's been a number. Most famous was Friday the 13th, the game, which is sadly dead because the rights issues regarding that franchise, where the writer who wrote the script for the first movie and then Sean Cunningham, who produced the series, had a dispute over the rights to the franchise.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but that kind of shit happens. That's the risk of making a property based on a license.
Yeah, exactly. They showed actually gameplay footage. I do want to say they did show gameplay footage for Hellblade 2. It looked really good. It just looked like...
It's gameplay footage in quotation marks.
It looked really good, but like everything, it looked basic. And obviously like a lot of that was scripted. Yeah. Like there was a lot of scripted stuff in there. Like I don't doubt that there was like gameplay, but it really looked like, to me, it looked like a lot of like the gameplay stuff looked like QTE type stuff.
Yeah.
Like press this button at the right second to throw the spear.
It's a little bit more in depth than that, where it seems like you kind of have some control of movement and stuff, but they really they're trying to kind of give you like this narrative experience in the gameplay. And that basically means it's like heavily limiting what you can do.
Right. You can't have it both ways. Like you can't have it be cinematic and then have the gameplay be rich. You either have to limit like the amount of control and gameplay the player has to make these moments look cinematic, or you have to give up the really flashy cinematic looking stuff to have the full gameplay experience. And it looks like Hellblade 2, like as much praise as it's getting, it looks like it really leads into being cinematic. And I gotta be honest, I'm not a big fan of that in games. Yeah. I don't care about being cinematic or flashy. I care about how well a game plays.
Yeah. I mean, something looking cinematic and stuff, that's nice and all, but it's when there's a trade-off, you have to lean one way or the other.
I do not
most
care.
Gamers lean towards gameplay over.
Yeah, I do not care about game developers who want to be film directors. Go make films. Go to Netflix.
Failed movie directors that get involved in games.
Yeah, exactly. That's just how I feel. Speaking of, I know you're excited to see this. We got the first trailer for the Halo TV show.
Oh, yeah. It's another, adaptation. Yeah.
Which is now at Paramount Plus. It was supposed to be on Showtime, but now it's Paramount Plus.
That's been like a long on-again, off-again project.
And it was supposed
Steven Spielberg's
to be...
name still attached to it.
Yeah, they were supposed to be launching it on Xbox One as a series back when Xbox One launched. I remember when they revealed the Xbox One for the first time.
Well, that was, remember they announced the Xbox One as being like this whole multimedia hub, and that ended up being like a huge mistake.
They announced a whole slate of Xbox originals, which was original television programming being produced by Microsoft. And there was several different shows they announced. Halo was one of them, and they all got canceled.
Well, the thing is they took the focus off of gaming, and they wanted it to be more of this kind of living room hub, and they were banking entirely on that. Where when the Xbox One first launched, you could only get it with the Kinect included and all this other stuff. It was more expensive. It had all this draconian DRM.
And by the way, the UI, the navigation on the system, you could only do that through Kinect at launch.
Yeah. Everything was tied up into that idea. And then gamers had no interest in that at all. And so that was hard. That
was all Don Matrick. That guy was a total idiot, in my opinion. But finally, it looks like after all this time, the Halo series is actually happening. It's coming to Paramount Plus.
Starring Porn Stash from Orange is the New Black.
Yes. It looks like Halo. I don't know what to say. I'm playing the newest Halo game, Halo Infinite, and they showed off this cast of characters and stuff. But if you play the game, it's almost as if everybody else is irrelevant except for Master Chief. At least as far as the games go. Nobody else does anything cool or has any victories. It's just Master Chief dominating the entire war by himself. And so I'm just okay, so how are they going to take that and make that interesting for a show? But there's books, there's novels based in this universe, and they make those interesting. So it can't be that hard. But.
Yeah. Or just, it won't be interesting and it'll just be porn for Halo fanboys.
Yeah. They showed off a new story trailer for Elden Ring, which I didn't mind. I didn't mind that mainly because
I'm surprised you even watched it. Like everybody else I know who's into Elden Ring or into the whole like Souls-like games were like, not watching.
Oh, to avoid being spoiled.
Yeah, because it's a story trailer. Like they wanted to see what the game looked like.
Well, yeah, it's a lore
stuff. But
it's a lore trailer. Yeah, so it goes into like some of the lore behind it, which I find the lore interesting. So yeah, I did watch it.
Yeah, a lot of them they just didn't want that spoiled.
I mean, that makes sense. I don't really care about being spoiled. Like the lore in these games, they're going to spend years dissecting the lore. So it, just to get a little bit of a trailer is not a big deal to me. It's not like they're spoiling the ending. They did this ridiculous thing though, where like
actually the trailer they showed was the ending.
Damn. They did this ridiculous thing though with like when they presented it where like Jeff Keighley had like this puppet of one of the pot men from the game come out to like hand him the note. And it looked ridiculous.
Yeah, when Game Awards tries to do like the stunt type shit like that,
Yeah.
Little skits and stuff, it's never worked well for them. I think Nintendo is probably the only company that does well in that area.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, it's always cringe when the Game Awards does it.
I mean, all of them have tried it. Ubisoft has done all sorts of little, like, skits and stunts and stuff in their show. They're always either boring or super cringe. Sony, I think, has tried it a few times. They try to, like, overly dramatize stuff. Like, they'll, like, remember when they did the thing where they would have the person playing the game and they'd have them on camera with, like, the lights below, like, glaring up, and they'd show them like it was all serious and dramatic as they're playing the game. And,
right.
Like, they did, like, that kind of ridiculous shit. And, like, all of them have tried that kind of stuff. And I think the only one who's done it really well is Nintendo, and they've mostly done it well in their pre-recorded stuff using their directs, which means that they're not doing it the live way.
Gonna rapid fire some things just so we can move on. They showed a Lord of the Rings Gollum, a new cinematic trailer for that game.
Gollum looks weird.
Yeah, Gollum looks weird. Showed a story trailer for Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. It's a Borderlands thing. Among Us
like a Borderlands game.
Yeah, it does. They showed a game called Nightingale, which looks like it's a Victorian era survival game. It looks interesting.
It looks pretty good until they started showing all the like the Minecraft elements of it, and then it was
yeah, that's right. I forgot about the Minecraft.
I saw it and I was like, this game actually looks pretty good, and then the crafting stuff popped in, and I'm like, I've lost all interest.
They announced a new DLC for Cuphead.
Yeah, showing a really cool claymation style, not for the game.
Yeah.
But in the trailer that I was like, man, they need to make like a Cuphead RPG in that style. That's what I want.
That'd be cool. That would be cool. And then like they announced Dune Spice Wars, which is a 4X strategy game. That might be good. I'm not a big strategy game guy. I don't play strategy games, so this might be one of the best 4X strategy games ever. I'm just not the person to make that judgment.
That's it. Let's move on to Nintendo's Indie World Showcase. So, a little disclosure here. I haven't even watched this. Yeah. As we're getting close to the Christmas season, I've just had stuff going on. Nintendo I've just kind of glanced over stuff.
No. Right. Yeah. And that's fair. It's not like this was a Nintendo Direct.
Yeah. I probably wasn't even going to play. I'm probably not even going to end up playing any of these games. I'm just not.
You hate
I don't play many indie games anymore. I used to, but my time is taken up with bigger games, I think, now, mostly.
Well, for me, like, there were several games here that I will definitely check out because I think they look interesting. For me, the standouts were Sea of Stars. First of all, I'm a sucker for JRPGs. I'm a sucker for a Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross. And I am also a sucker for pixel art. Mm-hmm. Like, gorgeous. And this game,
you must be having a miserable time this generation.
Yeah. This game has all those elements, especially like the pixel art looks absolutely fantastic. This is a beautiful looking game. So like when I saw it, it just floored me. So much so that like I was like, okay, yeah, this is already better than the Game Awards. That was the highlight of the show for me, to be honest. But it doesn't mean like the rest of the stuff was bad, or it was like the next game they showed was Aisha and Elisha, I believe.
Yeah, I kind of glanced that really quickly. I need to watch the full trailer for it.
Okay, the title of it is Elisha. I don't know. The Oblivion of the Twin Goddesses. It looked interesting, has like an interesting art style. Like I noticed it reminded me sort of like Skyward Sword visually. And apparently like it's got this interesting thing where like you play as two sisters, two goddesses, and they each have like a different, and it uses the elements of Switch in a unique way to where like each sister like controls differently based on different elements of the Switch hardware. Like the one sister, you control her and you solve puzzles through motion controls, through the Joy-Cons and manipulating the motion controls, and the other sister you control exclusively through the Switch's touchscreen, apparently.
When you would describe it that way, it kind of sounds like The World Ends With You on DS.
Yeah,
like you controlled one character with button inputs and the other one with like on-screen inputs, or
yeah. So it looks interesting, and it sounds interesting in the gameplay. They announced that Chicory, A Colorful Tale, and Omori are coming to Switch. Those are fun-looking, like indie, like RPG-style games. Omori is definitely really leans into like the Earthbound aesthetic with like.
They need like a genre name for that, like maybe not Earthbound, maybe Mother or something, like Mother-like.
Right. Bound likes.
Let's call them Mother Milks.
Oh, Jesus.
Because they're milking the mother style.
Right. It has its own unique, like quirky art style to it, but it's definitely like in that vein.
Yeah, that Undertale, Earthbound style kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. There's Endling, Extinction is Forever, which looks like an interesting game, but like it looks like really depressing.
Is that the one where like I was running through the trailer real quick or glimpsing through parts, and there was one game where it said, you know, your girlfriend is dead or something, and it's like
no, this is like about a fox and her cubs, so be weird.
So there's another depressed one.
Yeah. This is like basically it's a statement on climate change and like how that's affecting nature, and this apparently it takes place in like the future where humans have thoroughly wrecked the planet, and the last like fox and like her cubs are struggling to survive.
So it's about Fox News struggling to survive in our liberal society.
No, that's not what I said at all.
I have selective hearing.
They also showed new trailer for River City Girls 2, which looks great.
Yeah, that's Arc System Works that does that.
Yep, Arc System Works with WayForward Publishing. Looks great. And and there was like a 2D spray-based point and click adventure game, Locomotive, which looked interesting. Just because like I'm into those old school like adventure style games. And
weren't really any big surprises, I don't think.
No, there weren't. The big disappointment was Hollow Knight not showing up once again.
God, Hollow Knight, it's like the indie version of like Elden Ring fans, where like before that game was showing, every single video game event that would go, it's like, no Elden Ring, don't care.
Yeah, yeah.
Now
that's my sentiment.
When they do the indie things, it's the same thing with Hollow Knight. It's like Hollow Knight doesn't show up, and those people are like, no Hollow Knight, don't care.
Even after I beat the game, I'm just going to be like, next E3, I'm just going to be like, no Elden Ring, I don't care. No.
After you're playing the game, yeah.
After I'm playing the game, yeah. Yeah, like Hollow Knight's Silk Song is the elephant in the room. And it's funny too. There was like, I think a writer for Edge magazine tweeted, I think speculating that it was going to be in the indie world, and people globbed onto it and was like, oh shit, it's happening. This guy from Edge said so.
It's happening.
It's happening. Yeah, it didn't happen. It's funny too because like, they did the whole thing at the end where they're like, well, that's it for Indie World, or is it? We got one last announcement for you. And I can
fireworks in Nintendo Land again.
Yeah, it was Omori. It was the Earthbound game. And
I was just going to say, like, it would be funny if it was like the fireworks.
I imagine like a bunch of people like, you know, like, oh shit, here comes Hollow Knight, and then getting like really confused.
I just think every Nintendo show should end with fireworks in Nintendo Land.
Yeah.
No, not even just Nintendo Land, just the fireworks in Nintendo Land. Like, remember when they did that one E3?
Yeah, they did.
We have one more thing, and wasn't even, they'd already shown the game. Like, it was.
Yeah, it was the fireworks
fireworks in the game. That was a
Nintendo really thought Nintendo Land was going to be the Wii Sports of the Wii U, and no.
I mean, hey, it was a creative game, and it was pretty fun to play.
I like Nintendo Land. I like Nintendo Land.
But
I think it was a fun game.
But when you do like a one more thing, and it's literally just a fireworks show in a game, it's like, okay, you kind of missed the point of the one more thing.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. People want like megatons. And then like at Jeff Keighley's like show afterwards, that's when they decided to announce the Wonderful 101, when like a new Hideki Kamiya like Wii U exclusive game would have probably been a much better one more thing at the actual show.
Yeah.
Like much more like what people were looking for than Nintendo Land fireworks, but whatever.
That's why I just think from now on, every Nintendo show should end with one more thing and then the exact same footage. It'd be like the Nintendo's version of the Paul Rudd showing the clip from that one movie on Conan every time he shows up and he plays that same clip. You've seen that, right?
Oh yeah, I know that running gag.
The Mac and Me.
Oh, I'm sad. That can never happen again because Conan doesn't have a regular talk show anymore.
He's going to have a show again. We just don't know what the format is.
Yeah, but it's probably not going to be a format that allows Paul Rudd to come on and do that.
Yeah, because he's
doing Legend
interview stuff with
because like Paul Rudd was doing that up to like the last movie, but like up to Ant-Man and shit, he was still doing that gag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He showed up I think he was on the last episode of Conan, or one of the last episodes of Conan, and did it one more time.
Nice. But yeah, that was Indie World. I thought Indie World was pretty decent. Like nothing outside Sea of Stars. There was like nothing that like really blew me away, but certainly to me, like I thought it was all right. Those were like the major shows for the end of the year. We're not going to get like any other game show for like the rest of the year now.
Yeah, the next one will be the new Nintendo Direct.
Yes,
probably. Let's not expect it. Let's hope for it.
Oh well, sometime around February or March it should drop. Yeah, I mean, sure, let's not expect it, but it's a pretty safe bet.
Yeah, let's hope and not expect.
It was like all the people like getting nervous this past September, like, oh, maybe Nintendo Direct's not happening this September, and then it did happen. And it's like,
yeah,
Nintendo, come on.
I'm hoping for a big January Directs personally. Those are my favorites. They're like January 20th and like
but that's when like Nintendo has like a lot of shit to announce, and they rarely ever do a January like presentation. Those are rare. I'm not expecting that.
Those are the good ones though.
They are the good ones though. But like again, yeah, that's when Nintendo has like, because like I remember the one they did for like the Wii U, like after the Wii U came out and they announced like all these awesome games.
Yeah, Xenoblade Chronicles X and Shin Megami Tensei.
And then it took
like Fire Emblem
literally forever for those games to actually come out. Yeah. And it turned out like those were like 90% all the cool game announcements for the entire Wii U's lifespan. So yeah.
They need a big event now because they finally put out the last game that they showed at their January 2017 Switch unveiling.
Yes. Like they finally got the last game from
Shin Megami Tensei 5. It's the last game. That's out, so they've gotten all of them out now. So now they need another.
They got a lot of games coming out next year, though, so they're fine.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just hoping for a big January Direct.
Yeah.
Let's move on, though. Let's move on to our next segment, which is On the Horizon. It's kind of abbreviated. We only got 3 things on here, all movies. 1 on Netflix, 2 in theaters. One of the ones in theaters also on HBO Max as part of, I think it might be the last movie in that deal, that Warner thing they did with the movies releasing simultaneously in theaters and on HBO Max.
The Matrix, yeah, that's the last one.
So
as far as I know.
On the horizon. This is our segment On the Horizon, and the first title up is The Matrix Resurrections, which is coming out on Wednesday, December 22nd, and that is in theaters and on HBO Max. Are you interested at all, or did the last 2 Matrix movies just completely kill it for you?
I was not a fan of the last 2 Matrix. I don't know. I'm not like super hyped for it, but I mean, it's something I'd watch. Like,
the trailer,
especially
looks better than the last 2 ones.
Especially since, like I don't have to go out of my way to watch it. Like I wouldn't go to a movie theater or anything, but if it's just on HBO Max, and why not? That's my attitude. towards like the Matrix.
I mean, who knows? They could surprise us. It's, they've done it before. So we'll have to see if they can do something fresh and new and surprising.
Yeah, maybe it's like a great movie. Maybe it's like the best Matrix since the first one. We'll have to see. I haven't read any reviews.
It already, from the trailer, already looks better than the last two. So
yeah, the trailer looked good. I'll give them that. I haven't read any reviews though. But we'll see.
Next up on Friday, December 24th, Don't Look Up hits Netflix. I'm actually really excited for this. I remember when we were looking at the trailer, you were not interested.
Yeah, that looked like a bad SNL skit. I don't think like I'm a huge fan of Adam McKay's like particular style. Like, to be honest, like I like the stuff that he did with Will Ferrell, but like these big political dramas just seem like off to me.
Those two don't talk anymore,
No, they don't. They had a falling out. Like I recently saw like McKay like basically admitted like that it was his fault. And what can you do? I don't know. Like I guess like maybe I'm just kind of sick of the cynical political stuff because you get so much of it in the news anyway. I just went through like 4 years of Donald Trump being an idiot. I want to watch a movie like where the president is like an ignorant, belligerent asshole. I lived that. So, like, I don't know, like that's just how I feel at the moment.
To me, I think it looks like great satire.
Yeah.
Huge cast, like amazing cast for a Netflix movie. And from what I've seen from it, I think it looks good. I liked, what was the one he did about the stock market with the housing crash?
Yeah, The Big Short.
Yeah, The Big Short was really good.
That was like his grand entrance into like this particular field of filmmaking that he's like made his home now.
I enjoy it, so I'm looking forward to Don't Look Up. That's Friday, December 24th, Christmas Eve. Also on Friday, December 24th, in theaters, is The Kingsman, which is probably the movie I am most psyched for right now.
Yes, I still haven't seen like the last one they made.
Yeah, Golden Circle was okay. I think the problem with Golden Circle is they kind of did the James Bond thing of like, it ends and it feels like it could come back and continue on and the character relationships could continue. And then they just start the movie by killing off everybody that was from the first movie. Yeah. Kind of thing. Like Kingsman kind of did that with the second one. Like they kind of wiped a lot of the board out, which I wasn't like, I was kind of like, I was kind of hoping to see more of that character and this character, like, and you don't. So that was a little disappointing for me. This is like a prequel kind of thing though. But not like one of those direct prequels where it's got like some of the same characters younger and stuff. This is like way before. It's about the beginning of the organization. And I think what makes this one look really exciting to me is just the whole Rasputins in it, And whenever they do alternative history and Rasputins in it, it always ends up being some kind of fantastical, amazing thing. So think of him in like Hellboy, for example, or he was in the video game Shadow Hearts 2, which is one of my favorites. So I get to see Big Bad Rasputin again. I'm excited for that.
Nice. Yeah, it looks like a fun movie.
It's another one of those ones that's supposed to come out last year.
Yeah.
Been waiting for this movie for over a year. It's like, come on. And then also we should mention, even though we mentioned it last week, and this is earlier, but this Friday, of course, Spider-Man, the tiny indie film, as you mentioned last week on the podcast.
Yep, that's coming out. I'm avoiding all spoilers. I got like everything like involving Spider-Man muted on Twitter. Don't come at me with those spoilers. I'll watch it when I get a chance to watch it, and that's it.
Yep, I'm excited for that as well. And that's this Friday, so
nice.
17th. Let's move on to our final segment, full spoilers. Full Spoilers is our segment where we talk about our catalog show, whatever we happen to be discussing week by week, or whatever movie we happen to be, discussing in full spoilers, as the title suggests. This week, we're continuing our discussion of Hawkeye, doing episode 5, titled Ronin. And we get like a little bit more about Ronin and a little bit of, I guess, Clint's attempt at giving closure to Maya in this, but the real thing I want to talk about just right up front at the beginning is actually from the very end. And again, this is full spoilers, so if you haven't seen the episode yet, this is where you're going to want to tune out.
But spoil the heck out of it.
I can't believe they actually did it.
They did it. The Mad Lads, they did it. Yes.
I mean, it seems so obvious when you look at the clues that were placed for it. It was so obvious, but the fact that it looked so obvious and what I've been kind of, I guess, groomed to expect from the Marvel Disney Plus shows, like WandaVision with the Evan Peters thing and stuff. What we've been groomed to expect is that you're not getting it. So they hint at something really big, but it's not happening.
Yeah, exactly.
And I can't believe they actually did it.
They actually did it. So basically the big stinger is, Kate Bishop gets a text, presumably from Yelena.
Mm-hmm. We saw Yelena following her mom before that.
Yes. Presumably from Yelena, with pictures of her mother standing next to the big guy, who Hawkeye has been referring to the entire season as the big guy. And Kate, she's like, what is this? She hands her phone to Hawkeye and he just looks at it and says, yeah, that's who I was afraid of this whole time. That's the Kingpin. And It's the picture of Kate Bishop's mom standing next to Vincent D'Onofrio,
who also plays Thor.
Yeah, who also plays
Adventures of Babysitting.
Yeah. He's actually going to also be the new Thor in Thor Love and Thunder.
Yes. You watched Adventures in Babysitting, right?
Yeah, I did. My parents took me to a theater. I saw that in a theater when I was very, very young.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've seen it on HBO at some point.
It's a trip looking back and going, that was Vincent D'Onofrio playing Thor in that.
Right, yeah, because he's so young in that movie. It's a trip how actors can transform their appearance so radically. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Vincent D'Onofrio, the Netflix Kingpin, is officially canon in the MCU.
And it's making all the other rumors look much more likely now too.
Yeah, it's making the other rumors look very much more likely. There's a lot of speculation now that both Kingpin and Daredevil will play a role in the Echo series that Disney announced. Mm-hmm. Especially Kingpin now, because we know how closely tied he is to Echo's backstory.
Yeah. The one downer of this whole thing is that we talked last week when you were kind of surprised that it was only 6 episodes for this season. And I was talking about how I was worried and you were like, I don't know. And I'm like, it's 6 episodes, and you're like, oh shit. And
we're down to 1 episode left
if we were going to get closure. And it's like, well, as they're introducing this, and we know there's an Echo series in development, so it's like, I think there's a lot that we're not going to get closure from.
Because I think they're planning to follow some plot threads from this in Echo.
Yeah,
it seems like that's what they're doing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because there's too many plot threads. They're not going to wrap everything up in a bow in 1 episode. Are you kidding me?
I am going to say, though, that everyone probably listening to me last week is like, Tyson's done with Hawkeye. He hates it.
He hates it. It's the worst. It's the worst Marvel show. That's what you said. You said you would rather watch Inhumans.
I didn't say that. I said I think it might be my least favorite of the Disney Plus shows.
Right, yeah, I know, that's what you said, yeah.
But this episode
we have it on tape, we know.
This episode was really good. This was a return to form. It addressed a lot of my concerns. So it kind of brought everything together really quickly. It had, a big focus. I mean, the whole cold open was all about Yelena.
Yes.
Doing, one of my favorite things that they've been doing with some of the Disney Plus stuff, like they did in WandaVision, where they showed, can't even think of the character's name, where they showed her post snapshot moment,
Yeah, that was really cool. Especially how they did that, how they showed her going into the bathroom and then all of a sudden exploding into dust.
Seen the paint change and stuff on the walls.
She explodes into dust and then it rewinds and she comes back, but everything around her is different.
Yeah. Well, it was cool because they showed the same kind of dust falling apart effect was happening in reverse with the paint on the walls,
Yeah.
It was kind of a cool perspective way of showing
it kind of threw me off for a second. I was kind of what's happening? And then I was like, oh yeah, that's right, the snap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that was super cool. And then besides just that moment, we finally had Yelena acting like Yelena, which was my complaint. You know, it was a tiny scene in the last episode, but my complaint about it was that Yelena wasn't acting like Yelena, you know, and here we had Yelena acting like Yelena.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is exactly what I wanted from her. And everything started kind of coming together. You know, I was pretty much right when I said that Kate's mom looked very sus.
Yeah, like, it's obvious, like, the whole thing with, like, Jack was definitely, like, misdirection.
It was too obvious.
Yeah, it was too obvious. So, yeah, so they're doing the whole thing now where, like, they're arresting Jack and Jack's pleading, like, innocence. And the whole thing is, like, the idea is, like, oh, okay, well, that plot thread's over, right? He's taken care of. But no, because, like, the whole thing, and I'm sure I'm right with this, the whole twist is that he is actually innocent. Like, all the stuff he's saying, even though, like, it sounds ridiculous, is true as he's being, like, carted off. And, like, everything he's being accused of is, like, her mother is behind that stuff.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if he actually was still somewhat involved in some of the shit going on, you know?
Right.
But that he's not the mastermind. He's not the one in charge of what's been going on, you know?
No, she is.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of driven home with, like, that shot where she's talking directly to the Kingpin. You know, it's like, why is the Kingpin talking to her? What interest would he have with her, you know?
They're both Yankees fans.
Yeah, they're both Yankees too. Yeah, right. Yeah.
They're just talking about the season.
Just talking about the season. So, you know, that's the implication, right? And I think that's where we're headed next episode is, you know, a big confrontation between Kate and her mother, you know.
They also planted enough of a seed of doubt in Maya's mind with Clint referring to the Kingpin. When you were watching that scene, was there a part of you that was thinking, that's not Clint?
No.
Because just the way they were obscuring him so much, I was like, it was making me think that. And the only thing that made me go, no, it's gotta be Clint, is the fact that when he was taking out her men, he wasn't killing them.
Narratively, it would have not have made sense for it to not be Clint. It would have been like,
yeah, it was just weird the way
it would have just been like a stupid stunt.
Because it was like they were hiding his face, you know, like obviously he's literally hiding the face in a mask, but they were like literally obscuring not just his face, but anything that could be identifiable.
Yeah, I guess that seemed a little strange, but I didn't have doubt because, like, if it wasn't him, like, in that scene, then it would have me question where they were going with that, or like what the point of that would be for the story.
Yeah, it was one of those things where I was happy when it turned out to be him, because I thought like it wasn't that narratively I thought it wasn't him. It was just the way they shot it made it seem like they were trying to imply it wasn't him, and that made me like go like, oh, what are they trying to do now? Like, why are they trying to pull some kind of thing? This is the penultimate episode. Why are they trying to pull this shit now? You know, like, what's going on with this shit? And then he pulled off the mask, and I'm like, oh, okay. I was relieved. I'm like,
because like
the moment of him talking to her about it.
He dropped some insider information on her. She's like, you know, how do you think the Ronin found out? You know, Ronin got tipped off.
Yeah.
Who do you think did that?
Yeah.
You know, that's basically what he said.
And now it's also, there's an implication because she has a little conversation with Kazi.
And he repeated like the whole like line where like, we're weapons. I'm a weapon. You know, somebody points me at a target and I go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he repeated that as well.
Saying that they were like comparable in that sense, you know?
Yeah.
So it's, and that was a theme too, because that came up in a different way when Yelena and Kate were talking, you know?
Yes.
With Yelena basically being like, so how long have you known Clint? And you just believe what he tells you? And then Kate's like, and who told you that Clint was responsible and what's their motivation? You know?
Because like Kate picks up on it because Yelena keeps calling it like a mission. She keeps referring to like she was sent on the mission. Like Yelena doesn't refer to what she's doing as something she's doing on her own drive, her own volition. You know, even though it seems personal, Yelena's making it personal. She keeps referring to like, you know, like, and Kate picks up on that. She's like, okay, well, who's telling you to do this?
Yeah.
You know, like
Yelena had never thought of it.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It makes me interested in seeing, is somehow Kingpin involved with, is that it? Where Kingpin's somehow involved with the Countess?
Oh, that'd be
what's going on.
That'd be a interesting twist, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, that's tantalizing. I don't know. we will have to find out what happens next week with the Kingpin and
if we find out. I'm kind of anticipating we're not going to get much closure.
And Yelena, and maybe Clint will make it home in time for Christmas. I think all these Christmas stories always have like a happy ending. We deserve a happy ending for Christmas, where Clint gets home just in time.
Clint will be home for Christmas.
Yeah, right.
It is kind of like a Christmas movie in 6 parts, you know?
Right,
this was originally supposed to be a movie. And
I didn't know it was originally
into a series.
As a film. Yeah, okay, that's interesting.
Well, I mean, it was turned into a series before they started filming. It wasn't like
obviously
cut it differently or something, you know?
Well, yeah, obviously.
Yeah. They made the change early on, but it was when it was originally first put into production, it was going to be a movie. Same way like Black Widow was.
They also like the showrunner also said when they were filming this, they were not aware of the after credits scene in Black Widow. Marvel hid that from them.
Great strategy there, Marvel.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
Hide information from your creators.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't seem to matter. I mean, because it's not like it's new stuff. There'd be a reason for Yelena to believe that Clint was responsible, you know?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So it's
it's kind of like
got the information about it.
Again, it's like, because like, I thought like they would like go over it again in the show to provide the context for like people who didn't watch, but they don't. So like people watching this and just this have like no idea about the Countess. Even though
I have to say this again to anybody who hasn't heard it yet. But here's the thing: the MCU is one giant TV series.
Yes.
If something doesn't make sense and you just decide to skip one of the movies, that's like skipping an episode of a TV show. Maybe you'll be able to fit everything together, or maybe you miss something crucial. But they can't just backtrack and cover everything.
Right.
They can't go like, okay, maybe this person hasn't seen Eternals, or maybe this person hasn't seen Shang-Chi. It's like, no, it's expected that you've seen it all.
Well, the comic books would handle it by just like every time something comes up, they'd have like a little bubble in the corner that says, "Oh, as shown in Amazing Spider-Man number 53." You know, like so, like in the scene where Yelena's talking to Kate, because as seen in Black Widow. Yeah, go watch Black Widow for the rest of the context.
A little link pops up and you click on it and it starts playing Black Widow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, in general, I think this was a massive improvement over last week's episode, which was kind of a downer for me. This is more along the lines of like episode 3, which I was much more into. So yeah, this is good. I'm excited that it seems to be back on track. I'm nervous that there's only one more episode left and they just started making progress, like in the story. We talked last week about how like nothing is developed in the story in the course of 4 episodes. It's slow, like thirds of the
and again, it's like this is like another show where I thought was going to be, there's surprisingly not a whole lot of action in this show.
Yeah, there's been a few cool sequences and that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
They did it again though, this time though. The cold open was really cool.
The cold open was really cool. Obviously the stuff with like where he donned the Ronin suit again, that was a cool scene.
Mm-hmm.
Cool action scene. You know, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed this episode. I love the fact they brought Kingpin back. It's Vincent D'Onofrio. That bodes well for other characters. Cough, Charlie Cox, cough, coming back. That bodes very well.
We had that last week with Feige saying that
he said, "Oh, if we ever do anything with Daredevil again, not promising we will, but if we do, Charlie Cox is our guy." I was like, okay, but I think like Kevin Feige was like furiously winking during that entire like interview. Like,
is there something wrong with your eye?
He's like, yeah, right. Because like I think based on this, we're probably going to see Daredevil sooner rather than later.
Yeah. I mean, there was an old rumor before even the Echo rumor, which ended up being true, that there was going to be an Echo series. And part of that rumor was that not only Daredevil, but Jessica Jones was going to be in it. And there were going to be some other characters from the Marvel Netflix universe that were going to be in that show. But even before those rumors, there was like a pretty heavy rumor that Daredevil was going to show up in Spider-Man. So
yeah. And we'll have to see how that bears out when we watch No Way Home.
Mm-hmm. That'll be exciting. So
definitely.
Yeah, but that's it for full spoilers for this week. And that's it for our podcast. So next week, we are going to be covering Hawkeye, the series finale this time, which again, I'm a little nervous about. This doesn't feel like a penultimate episode. This feels like first third point. You know what I mean? This
Right,
feels like
yeah,
if
it
it
feels
was a
like there's
six-episode season,
much
it should have been
more.
the end of episode 2, you know?
Right. It feels like there's much more story, but nope, it's ending next week. So we'll have to see how they do it.
We'll have to see how that goes. But I'm excited, definitely. I think the reveal at the end was really cool. Did you watch the animated credits?
Yes, I did. I saw the silhouette of the Kingpin at the end.
Yeah, it's just like a really cool little touch.
Really cool little touch. Yeah, definitely.
It's not like a scene or anything.
No, they don't have there's no after credits scene so far in this show. Maybe in the last episode, but
probably in the last episode. It's a Marvel show.
Yeah.
But yeah, like if you didn't notice that at the very end of this episode of Hawkeye, at the very, very end, they have the animated credits, which air before like the regular credit scroll comes up. And at the very end of that, you see like a silhouette.
They were doing the Grinch song.
Yeah, that was really cool too. I like that. But yeah, and they had like a silhouette of the Kingpin at the very end over, and we'd seen this animated thing before and we didn't see the silhouette before. It wasn't part of it. So that was just like a little cool touch. But yeah, that's it. Like I said, next week we're going to be talking about the series finale. A few other things probably, some other news stories, I guess. We were kind of light on news this week because we already had both the Game Awards and the Nintendo Indies. So we were like, that's enough. And there wasn't anything like massive that news-wise that came out, besides those. But yeah, there'll probably be some more to talk about next week then as well. Thank you everybody for listening. You can check out our podcast every week by subscribing through your podcast client of choice or by checking it out on YouTube or our SoundCloud page. And you can find all the links to those on our website, thetitlescreen.com, where we post up our podcast every week. So you can check it out there as well. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Tyson Gifford. You can follow Will. He is at Voxel Hero. Leave a comment on Twitter, on SoundCloud, on YouTube, anywhere that you can if you want to. We would always appreciate your comments, good, bad, or indifferent, as I always say. But until next week, thank you everybody for listening. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you for listening to the OnScreen podcast, the official podcast of The Little Screen. Visit our website at thetitlescreen.com. This podcast can be found on any major podcast client, including Pocket Cast and Apple Podcast. The entire backlog of this podcast and other content can be found on our YouTube channel.